almost live from the CX Therapy Studio, CX Therapy Season 4.
Max, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Julien. I see the city of light behind you. How is it there? How's life? How are you?
It seems pretty good. I must tell you, I'm so pumped up today. A little bit anxious as well. I mean, technically that's the second episode of that new season, but everything's new. It does feel like the first one. And for some reason, I have a little bit of anxiety, but a lot of energy. Super excited about it.
All right, no dancing on the table.
No, well, there's no space for that, but we're all good.
All right, sounds good.
So here is what I had in mind for today. I'd like to bring a specific theme, something that's very close to my heart. So I guess you'll have that. One of the topics I've been talking about the most for the past, we know each other 6 years. So for the past 6 years, which is digital customer service.
Oh, we are in your wheelhouse.
Exactly.
Nice.
And to do that, what I was thinking was, let's just set the stage first before we start talking about anything. So I've prepared 3 stats that I'd like to share with you, just to get started in a smooth way. You good with that?
Okay. I'm ready for digital info, digital display of a digital bit of information about digital.
So this is the first one I've got for you. 44% of millennials and Gen Z check their messages more than 10 times a day, which I honestly believe it's way more than that. I can't believe this statistic to be right. I think that's a serious understatement. I mean, just myself, I think I'm closer to 100 than 10, but yeah, I don't know if
that maybe that's like the lowest percentile group, and then everybody else is above that, the 60 whatever percent or above that. I agree. That seems super low. No one has ever confused me with Gen Z, but I don't think I do 100, but I certainly do more than 10 times a day.
Okay, well, we'll align on that. Perfect start. Second one for you, 74% of online adults say that they feel more connected with a business if they can message it. And I insist on message means not just email, message, right? So we're talking WhatsApp, we're talking Messenger, we're talking iBusiness and all these things. How do you feel about that?
That equally seems awfully high to me. I like that. I think you love that. I think it is really good, and that having that number that high, I think businesses should take note and look for more messaging like that. But that number feels a little bit on the high side to me. What do you think? Does that resonate with you?
I actually think it's exactly where it should be, maybe even below where it should be, because the way I read that is feeling connected. When you're on messaging channels, you actually have conversations. You don't feel a connection when you send an email. You don't feel a connection when you talk to someone on a live chat that may be replaced by anyone else if you drop the chat for more than 30 seconds. I think the only way to be connected is human connection or messaging, because you have actual conversation. So to me, that's not surprising.
Okay.
But let me bring you the...
I'll take that argument, and I would argue messaging is a human connection if you're messaging with a human, but...
Okay, well, fair point here. But that brings me to the third one, which is not a general stat. That's an actual experiment. So that is only true for the experiment itself. Customers with fully digital journeys are 33% more satisfied than those served through traditional channels. And that's coming from an actual experiment with actual customers. I extracted that from a book that's called The Power of Digital Conversations. And I'll talk about this in a few minutes. But are you surprised with that number?
That is really interesting. I'm not really surprised. And I think, if only we could talk to the author of that book, because I think there's some subtleties to that. The design of that digital customer journey is going to be really important to how people do it. I certainly think that can be achieved easily. I can also think of a number of digital customer journeys that aren't good, and you'd never get there. So I like that number, though. I think that's a great number.
I think that's a fantastic place to start. So now that we've set the scene, what comes next? Do you have something for us?
I have something for us. I have a mailbag.
Now it's time to open this week's mailbag.
And here is the mailbag, all ready to go. Let me see if there's any letters in here.
I hope it's not laundry inside.
No. Well, 80 years ago there was, but I got the letter here. And this letter came out of some conversations with some of the Forrester analysts I've had lately. And I brought up some things around our last episode where we talked about your book. And one of the things that was there that is a real obsession at Forrester is customer journeys. And just there was a lot of talk about, just the different types of journeys. And I thought maybe you could spend a moment just kind of picking a journey, and we could just kind of drill down on it for a moment or two.
All right. What do you have in mind? Where do we start?
Well, why don't we do customer service? That's kind of where we both come from.
So where do you go? Where do you want to start here?
Well, I guess just maybe break down, how do you look at a customer service interaction as a journey instead of, I'm doing service?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's actually a very tricky question, because we tend to see customer service as a simple interaction that happens when you have a problem, like after the purchase step when you're using the product. But it's not. It's absolutely not. The customer service is actually not a step in the journey. That's an ongoing thing that appears at every possible step of a standard customer journey. You contact customer, you reach out to a brand when you have questions in your exploration phase, you reach out when you have questions about the purchase, you reach out when you have questions about how to use a product, eventually when you have feedback on the product, when you actually have an issue, when you want to return it, when you want to purchase again. I mean, it's the customer service element is actually a customer journey of its own that's connected to the general journey. It's not just a step. Even though probably most of the interactions would happen, almost the most memorable interactions happen when you happen to have a problem and you already have the product, but it's really throughout the entire journey. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, I that is the right way to think about it. And I think it's, the nice thing is once you do that, we always talk about silos and the problem of silos. And once you start thinking of it as a whole, hopefully that can make it a little easier to get to the point of, breaking down some of those silos and getting a more holistic, maybe even include shipping as something that can be handled.
I love that you bring that up, because I think silos is the worst disease in any contact center. And typically organizing your contact center team around channels, to me, is one of the biggest mistakes you could make. You have to start looking at, you're talking about customer journey, you have to start looking at customers' needs and organize your teams around competencies and skills and customer needs versus channels. Because channels are just that. They are channels. They are mean to carry a message from one person to the other. So contact center should be completely agnostic of that. If you become agnostic of that, you start already the process of breaking silos and having better conversation and better expertise and connecting better with the other teams within the contact center and within the entire company, actually.
So that's a great point. And, we tend to break the world into voice and digital. And I think it's a lot more complex than that. And I think there's not enough expertise and thought around the digital journeys. And I think maybe it's time we dig into that a little bit.
So I love that you talk about digital journeys because first, one of my favorite topic, and second, I actually have an expert I'd like to invite to talk about digital journeys. That was for you.
What?
Ready?
Ready.
And now, please welcome this week's guest, a true CX expert.
Good morning, Paolo. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Julien and Max. Thanks for having me today.
So, Max, you know Paolo already because he was with us on, I believe, season 2, or was it season 1 of the CX Therapy? I can't remember. But for those who are not familiar with Paolo, Paolo Fabrizio is actually a digital customer service consultant and trainer working in Italy and the whole of Europe, really. And he also happened to be the author of The Power of Digital Conversations, who's, the book I was referencing a few minutes ago on the statistics, that's actually Paolo's book. So definitely something we can ask some questions about later on.
Great. So, Paolo, I just want to, you and I, as Julien said, we've met a time or two, but I don't know you that well, and the audience doesn't as well. So just to get to know you a little better, my first question, what is that city behind you? We all have our little representative image that Julien made for us. Where are you located, and how does that inform who you are?
Well, behind me is the Duomo, Milan, because I was born and raised, and I still live today in Milan, Italy. So the Duomo represents is the main symbol of the city. Even though I travel a lot, as Julien just said, a few days ago, I was traveling all over north of Italy to pay visit to client companies, and sometimes I also travel abroad. So I really love my city, but I also, I'm a citizen of the world. So whenever I go, I feel, immediately at home, and I try to learn and appreciate local cultures.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, I have the same travel bug. Last half of last year, I was gone a ton. And right now I'm doing a big report, so I'm actually home a lot. And for once, I traveled so much that it actually feels good to be home for a bit.
And probably your favorite trip of last year was actually in Italy. You talked quite a bit about that one.
Absolutely, yeah. So a friend of mine always likes to say, nobody as an 8-year-old boy or as somebody in high school says, boy, I really want to work in CX when I grow up. How did you get into this? How did you get here? Because the other thing we find is once people get into this industry, they're obsessed.
Right. Yeah. That brings me back to the 90s, because one of my first job was call center agent in one of the first international pay TV here in
Oh, interesting.
So my customer service journey started way before the digital came in. And then I was also pushed again towards the customer service and customer relationship area again when I worked with other 25 or 26 boys and girls to give birth to the startup of one of the first direct and online insurance companies here in Italy. And thanks to that specific experience that lasted over 10 years, I had the chance to cover so many roles because the company needed to grow, and it was growing in terms of insurance, but also in terms of staff. So I had the chance to receive physically in our office the customers, to handle back office activities, to carry out customer service activities, to also act both in a customer service and commercial, different roles, up until the foreign claims department that I used to lead for 5 or 6 years. So I had, the opportunity to have a sort of helicopter view on all the departments. So the culture we were instilled was a customer culture, one of the main pillars that I also work on today. The customer culture was led by values which were based also on the fact that not only the frontline people, the customer service staff, needed to be customer focused, but everybody, regardless of the role, regardless of the department, needed to learn from customer service how to have a sort of sensitivity and how to be responsible in each stage of the customer journey. Regardless, we're talking about finance or IT or marketing people. And that was a very striking lesson that I learned. And drinking and, breathing every day from that kind of culture that led me to also, when I started my solo career as a consultant and trainer almost 10 years ago, to say, I've got a very solid customer service and customer culture background. Now digital is on the rise, social channels a few years ago, now digital customer service. So I just needed to, of course, deep dive into these technological and technical channels, and to combine my customer service and customer culture, DNA and expertise with those new channels. That's why today I think that, you just mentioned both Max and Julien, it's one of the main goals that I see many companies have, and some of the challenges, is to strike a balance between the technology, between the digital channels and the experience. And we know that experiences are most of the time based on the water that flows within those pipelines. And pipelines are the digital channels, the water are conversation.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And that was a perfect timing, if I may say. You must have had a crystal ball when you decided, when was it, 2014 or 2009 that you decided to change career and felt like the future would be digital?
I started my consulting and training career in 2014. It was October, yes.
Wow, so coming up on a decade.
Yeah.
And talking digital. Talking digital in 2014 must have been a more difficult conversation to have than today, because today everyone is, I believe, at least most people are convinced, understand that the future is digital. 2014, the market was not as mature, so it must have been a very different environment.
Yeah, it was. It was pretty tough. Especially starting mainly from the Italian market. When I started working and delivering social customer service, then digital customer service services, and of course consulting and training services, I had to explain to prospects what I was talking about. Okay,
that's
so
right.
That's really hard because I realized that different level of markets were in, because I paid also visited, and I attended many conventions, especially in UK. A market which used to be way ahead than Italy and France. Now I think the gap is pretty reduced just in a few years due to the pandemic. Also, there was an accelerator towards the adoption and the investments, not just on digital but also on customer experiences. That's why also today we tend to mix up digital customer experiences, digital customer service. But the good news is that the word customer most of the times is
right in the middle there. I want to pick for a moment on something you talked about a bit ago. You talked about getting the finance guy to care about customer service and the IT guy. I assume that's part of what you do in your consulting. How do you get those guys to care? What you must have talked to people who don't care and tried to convince them many a time. What do you have anything that, because I know that's a challenge I see over and over and over, is just getting this mindset you talk about, which is so important.
Yeah, the fact is that having worked, as a frontline guy and then leading a team, and now today from the other side of the river, I see a sort of issue that's maybe old, but now is very dangerous, because whenever the customer service agent is able to get an information and provide a response to the end customer, okay, we got a final good experience. But whenever it happens that the customer service agents is not empowered, is not allowed to get to know some information, or just simply needs to get in touch with other departments for a second level assistance, to get information, and after getting those information, being able to provide a meaningful response or sometimes solutions, sometimes the customer service agent is waiting for days. And if you wait for days and you provide a very quick in digital channels, first response, which means, okay, Max, I need to get in touch with my colleagues. I let you know as soon as I know it. And that's a very good prompt, first response. But after one day, in the age of digital customer service, with no further proactive responses, what happens? The customer uses this tool, right? And sends WhatsApp, try to call, send a live chat, and uses all the digital channels because he's already getting impatient. And he or she expects the company to be fully aligned in terms of smooth internal communication, smooth internal processes, and accordingly prompt proactive resolutions. So that's the missing link, and that's the last mile that many companies are working. And to answer to your question, Max, to bring on the same table different people with different cultures, it's not easy. But those companies that are not changing their roles. So the IT guy remains an IT guy, and so do the marketing guy or the marketing lady. But being aware that the action or inaction between internal communication has a direct effect on the quality of the customer experience, and also a later consequence on how the final and the end customer is willing or not willing to buy again from you and to spend money.
I love when you say that, because when I was reading your book, I had the feeling to be listening to everything I've been talking about for the past many years that no one was listening to a few years back. When I was at trade shows and I was explaining, the future is messaging, the future is social media, the future is digital. And people were telling me, no, there is a little bit of digital, but the only thing that people care about is the phone and face-to-face conversation. This digital thing is never going to pick up. And now we're in 2024, and the only thing that people care about, not the only thing, one of the major things that people care about is being able to connect with people digitally. It's so much more convenient, and it's integrated in people's habits. That, to me, that is the key. It's integrated in people's habits. I am using personally WhatsApp to chat with my family, with my friends, with colleagues around the world. If I'm using that for my personal usage, it makes it incredibly convenient for me to connect with brands on that same channel. And he makes it so much better. I don't know if you've seen in the first few minutes of this show, I shared some stats about how people feel connected, and the fact that you are in my pocket because you're on my WhatsApp, on my phone as a brand, you remain top of mind. Now we feel connected. And talking about WhatsApp, I actually have a question of my own for you. Actually, not just for you, Paolo. I have a question for the both of you. What would you think, how many messages are sent through WhatsApp daily? And I'm not talking businesses, I'm talking everything. How many messages are traveling on WhatsApp channel on a daily basis in the world?
I'll say 1 billion.
You'd say 1 billion?
I would say 3 billion.
3 billion. 100 billion messages a day. Wow. 100 billion messages a day. I'm not the one saying that, by the way. That's something you can verify. Will Cathcart was head of WhatsApp in 2020. I'm not sure he's still that's still him. And he was saying this on Twitter. Well, at the time we called it Twitter. Now you'll have to call it X, I'm afraid. And just for comparison, today in 2023, there are approximately 333 billion emails going out a day. So 3 years ago, that represented 1/3 of the emails that are being sent, knowing that you get spam, you get newsletter, you get mailboxes that no one has used for 50 years that are still active and receiving email. That is an amazing number to me. and that's showing how critically important this channel is for any business. With that, what do you think we jump on the couch? I think Paolo has a story, and we probably should jump on the couch. Are you guys good with that?
Yeah,
I'm good. You ready to share your pain, Paolo?
Oh yes, of
Okay,
course.
good.
Gather around, folks. It's time for guest CX story.
Yes, I'm ready.
Sorry for cutting you. I got excited.
No worries, no worries. It was a nice jingle. And you know what? My story, my personal digital customer service experience, is related to the WhatsApp channel.
Okay, good.
There you go.
Related to a WhatsApp conversation in particular. And I chose that experience that I had a few months back because it's interesting. So the customer's issue was a problem with the internet connections on my dad's home. My dad is 85 years old.
Oh boy.
He's still pretty smart, but whenever there is a sort of customer service issues, he calls me for help. Okay, so I'm in charge to be the best guy, try to get prompt intervention and prompt solutions. So I went to my father's home just to check if I could help, but the router, the Wi-Fi router was, showed a red light, so something was not working. And the problem is that both the internet connections and the landline phone were off because it's all the same provider. Okay, so it was impossible for him to both doing or receive calls and also using the internet because also he uses Zoom every day for his Spanish lessons. That's the funniest side of it.
No.
So it was pretty angry, and okay. So what I did, I called the call center of this telco, okay? But you know what? It's like with telco, they're busy, and I tried 3 times, but the automatic voice said, all our operators are busy at the moment. Please try later. So I tried.
Oh, you couldn't even get into a queue.
Yeah.
Oh,
And it was 10 p.m. It was 10 p.m. Right? All right. And so it was still busy. So I had an idea. So I remember that company had introduced a couple of years earlier also the digital customer service through WhatsApp channel. So I found out a number and I text them. And I just let them know, this is a picture of my father's router. So both Wi-Fi and landline phones are not working. Please help out, right? And so the first experience was an immediate answer because a chatbot sits in their WhatsApp channel. So this is the first experience from a customer standpoint, immediate response with troubleshooting made by the chatbot. So he asked me a couple of questions to find out whether to include or exclude options, right? So he did pretty well. So all the questions are, related to a possible issue, right? But all my answers were not enough to let the chatbot come to a conclusion, to diagnose the problem, right? So another good part of this experience in its bad is that the chatbot did not insist on asking me further, annoying answers. It just wrote me, okay, I was not able to help you, but don't worry, I'm going to pass you onto my human agent. So that's one of the key moments in digital customer service, meaning the handover from the chatbot to a human agent. So
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it needs to be fast, immediate, it needs to be smooth, and it needs also that the human agent is fully aligned to the previous part of the conversation. Otherwise, the agent starts asking back the same old questions and customers get, annoyed.
Nobody ever does that.
Sorry?
Nobody ever forces you through that.
Yeah, of course. So the human agent welcomed me and he told me, yes, of course, I'm aware of all the previous things that you exchanged with the chatbot, and it was a very good start. So he just asked me 2 different questions, and I had to do something on the router, manually on the router. So I had to switch and use some parts of the router that I didn't was aware of. Okay, so but all attempts didn't work, unfortunately. So after a very couple of questions, the human agent came to the conclusion that it was necessary to charge one of their technicians to pay a visit to my father's home in order to replace the router, right? Okay. And I replied through this WhatsApp conversation. So we're all in channel, still in the same channel, say, okay, that's fine. But, when the technician is coming to my father's home, because, there is no phone, no internet line at the moment.
Right.
And he replied, okay, our technician will be coming to your house today or at the latest, tomorrow or at the latest in a couple of days, right? And so before closing the conversation, I wanted to make sure that this intervention was a sort of resolution of this issue. So I asked, and that's very important because it brings to a very important pitfall that damaged and ruined the whole experience. So, drum roll. Yeah, he reassured me, telling me, don't worry, the technician will replace the router and, your problem, your issue will be fixed. But he also added one thing. Oh, by the way, we have a very special offer on mobile contracts right now. Can I let you call by my colleague tomorrow? And I say, no, you guys first off fix my damn problem.
Yeah.
You shouldn't ask me. Bye-bye. And he didn't have the nerve to reply.
It's
like he fucked up. That's the moment you realized he fucked up.
It's like asking a girl on a date at her dad's funeral. This is amazingly wrong timing.
Exactly.
Well, there's so many things to unpack in your story. I have to start. You know what? I was puzzled at the beginning of the story because I can't tell whether I should be genuinely impressed that in Italy the hotline is open after 10 p.m. Because it's pretty impressed, or very disappointed that even at 10 p.m. no one is picking up the phone. Or should I be more disappointed that you, out of all people, start with phone and not WhatsApp? I'm not sure which feeling to have.
Well, you can choose, all the options. We can see things from different angles, of course. Okay. So but you know how the story ended, because, the technician then came in, he replaced the router and everything was fine, but the bitter taste of this experience remained. And that's what I call the emotional memory in good or bad experiences that last through years. So if you ask your friends or colleagues about a very positive or a negative experience, they may talk about in details of a bad or negative experience that they had 5 or 6 years ago. That's a question that I usually ask to my clients during consulting and especially in training sessions, because that's the best way to let agents put themselves in customers' shoes.
And how easy was it for you to find their WhatsApp number? Because you brushed over it pretty quickly. I found their WhatsApp number, but why did you call the phone first? Is it they were encouraging you to call the hotline first? Was it hidden somewhere on the website? How did you get to WhatsApp?
Yeah, they got a sort of help page which is pretty well structured. So you can try to do some self-service, and then you can choose. You may opt trying to call, or just to get a call back, but it was pretty late, or to start a WhatsApp conversation from the desktop. So my father wanted me to call, of course. So I tried to call, but after 3 attempts, so I just realized that WhatsApp was the better option. And I think at the end of the day that we saved time in our chatbot first, chatbot 2, human, and then human conversation, handling. But in terms of experience, the lack of timing, so a bad timing in asking me and proposing something commercial before an issue to be resolved, that's something beyond the digital customer service. It may happen in a shop, in a brick and mortar. Okay, whatever. So it's something that ruins the trust. It affects trust.
Yeah,
completely.
There's just no excuse for that. I feel for the poor agent who did that, because he got the thing telling him, okay, this is the next message you're sending, and he's just like, oh.
Yeah, but
because the agent knows it's the wrong time, right? I mean, it's not like they're ever getting uptake on a message like that.
And the worst thing is, if you do that if you don't say this at this time, but you do this as you resolve the problem and you get a sense of, is the person happy? Or if the technician could leave a comment to the agent, the man is actually thrilled, super happy. Now you can get back to him and try to upsell something.
Yeah.
That is right timing.
Yeah, that's a matter also, Julien, let me tell you that you're totally right. And that's a matter of good processes. So I'm 100% sure that agent did not decide. He was forced to ask that question.
Exactly.
It was a bad process in which maybe the most interest was on acquiring new business, to sell something, without considering that firstly, you provide me with a relief. Human emotions, to say, oh, thank God they solved my problems. Let me realize that now everything is fine, and they were so able to solve my issue. Then, after cooking and boiling the water for the pasta, you got maybe 24 or 48 hours after fixing the issue, and say, we are so happy that we were able to fix your issue first. Second, would you be willing to listen to our new mobile offer we prepare for you? That's a different approach. That's different timing, and it's a different process that starts from internal communication in between departments.
But if you remove these two things from the equation, the first one is totally impossible to get hold of them. There's three things. The fact that the line's too busy, meaning they don't have enough staff to support their customer. There is an issue here. So the second thing is, instead of telling you there is 32 minutes wait, they just hang up on you and ask you to call again. Terrible experience. And that bittersweet taste that you were talking about using the wrong timing. Three issues in that story. But if we forget about this for a second, the rest was pretty smooth. Not every company is on WhatsApp quite yet. I always give the benefit of the doubt to any company that's trying to be more digital and closer to its customers. Always a great start. The chatbot may not have been perfect, but it asked all the right questions that an agent would have asked anyway. So it's saving time from both customer and company side. Beautifully done. The fact that the agent has a full background story. I think, Max, you were saying it never happens that the agent doesn't have the background story. I guarantee it does happen. I had, at least with a bank and with an insurance, conversation with a chatbot and the human agent asking me the exact same questions after. So, and it.
I was being completely sarcastic. Unfortunately, it is the surprise upside when somebody actually has it, which is inexcusable.
Yeah, completely.
Any level whatsoever.
But the chatbot was not bad. Passing the handover to the human agent, fantastic. The only thing that could have been done a little bit better is probably having something to schedule the appointment versus telling you an agent, a technician is going to come sometime between right now and the next 48 hours. So what do? I sit next to the router for 48 hours and wait for you guys to show up. Not the best experience, but at least it's quick.
I actually had a question on that, and I think for your 85-year-old father, this would have been an absolute bust. But I had a similar situation where my router, it didn't completely die, but it was old enough and it was being funky that it was time to replace it. And, here in Sunnyvale, California, there's no lack of Xfinity stores within a mile of my house. So I had the option to go get it. And then they had very good instructions to kind of walk me through it. Would that have been an option that they gave you, or was it just purely, we'll bring a technician, we haven't worked out the process enough, so we're comfortable supporting somebody doing it on their own?
No, I was not offered any kind of option. So the only option was let the agent to charge the technician. And I know the main telcos are pretty busy in terms of incoming volumes of calls, and many technicians, driving through the main cities such as Rome, Milan, or other big cities. And the traffic jams, you just can't imagine. Maybe you've experienced some of them.
I drove in Rome for 45 minutes in 1987. It was the scariest 45 minutes of my life.
And you're still alive, thank goodness.
Still scars. Yeah.
So that's the good part of it. So, and that's it. But I fully agree with both of you. So it's the interesting part. I just share this experience because it was beautifully crafted. After such an experience, after a customer tries a new channel for the first time, then he or she decides whether to repeat this new experience, this new effort. Let's try this new channel. Let's try WhatsApp or other channels. And if it's a good experience, all details need to be cured in taking care in each detail. So the chatbot did process and triage was pretty good. The handover was smooth as well. The actions carried out by human agent were aligned. So seamless, smooth experience in channel. So they did a great work. But it's just one part of the procedures. Some things that you better not ask. So you may come to the bride and you say, "Are you free tonight during the wedding?" So it's not the right thing to ask. The wrong words at the wrong time to set up a fire and to damage the whole impression, the whole experience. So it's not WhatsApp or live chat that works or do not work for some specific industry. Okay, it's not a channel. It's not the chatbot that works or is not working well. It's a sort of ensemble orchestra thing. The procedures, the tools, the omni-channel platforms, the ability for the agent to see what's the previous part of the conversation carried out by the chatbot, and being able to be empathetic, to not just use scripts, but at the same time be aware also to let the managers or the supervisors that some part of the procedures are counterproductive.
And that's a topic that Max and I love talking about over and over again, which is agent empowerment.
Yes.
Giving very restrictive scripts to read. Actually, if you're only reading scripts, you don't need a human agent. A machine could do the job. The human agent has a brain, emotions that are going beyond the machine. So you have to trust your staff. There is a ramp-up period. There is training and everything. You probably don't trust everyone on day one, but the empowerment is incredibly essential. I completely agree with everything you're saying here. Technology is just an enabler. On its own, it's not good or bad. It's depending on how you use it. That being said, and I have a very strong bias. I'm still a big fan of WhatsApp from that perspective. There are two super fantastic advantages I can see in your story specifically around WhatsApp. The first one is, I'm always concerned when you make beautiful promises over the phone that once I hang up, those promises vanished. I've heard them. You've told me there is no proof of any of it. And I would be very concerned the agent would never show up. Now it is on my phone. It's on my WhatsApp. And if when the technician comes to my house, we have a disagreement over what he's supposed to do, whether there are charges or anything, I can pull up my phone and say, look, that's a conversation. At no point we've been talking about being charged for anything. So don't try to screw me. The second thing that I find beautiful is back to feeling connected. Again, once you're in my pockets, once you're on my phone, any kind of question I have about a new offer, any problem I have, any upgrade I would like to take, instead of thinking, do I have half an hour to find their phone number and call their hotline? Do I have time to go to their store? Do I really want to write an email? I don't need to do any of this. It's as simple as messaging a friend. I pull up my phone, the conversation is already here, and I'm just asking my question the same way I would ask a friend. This is creating such crazily tight bond between a company and a customer that I think very few channels are able to create beside messaging channels.
That I want to tie that point back to this horribly bumbled offer thing. because the argument for why am I doing it at the worst possible moment is going to be, I've got them now, we're engaged, we're in the moment. If I wait till later and send him an email asking this or follow up some way like that, but that's not what this is. This is an asynchronous conversation. Yeah. You're still in that conversation. You're still in that mode. So it's all the more stupid that they didn't go ahead and reply in that or wait and do it, because it really just would be a part of the same conversation and it would feel so fluid. Boy, what a miss.
That's absolutely, 100%, Max. And that, comes from old-fashioned mentality or mindset, if you will.
Yes,
so
yes.
We got a new channel, let's use it to sell.
Right.
What happened 4 years ago, let's use it to sell. But if your goal is both to sell, but also to provide assistance, to care, to provide caring, you know that you may use the same channel both for doing some marketing or selling activities and also for caring. But if your primary goal is still caring, you have an issue regardless of the channel, because customers nowadays do not, tend to take distances from those who just ask for sex, which is having sex. They want to have relationships, which is also emotions, not just sex, with entities, companies who are made of people who they trustworthy people. So you need to ask, but you also to give. Give and ask is, the base of a healthy relationship.
It's all about the conversation.
Yeah.
That's the first time I get this metaphor. So
they're pretty strong.
That is a memorable one.
Romantic, I know.
That is a
That's
memorable
very Italian.
One.
Yeah. Definitely.
As a French person, I didn't dare saying that, so I'll leave it to you, Max.
Yeah, I take all the responsibility.
Do you feel any better, Paolo? Are you happy to be on the couch with us today? Do you feel relieved of sharing your story?
Well, I do love the CX therapy couch. So whenever I sit in, I feel at home. So it's, something that's very, relaxing. And also having the chance to exchange and share also such experiences and listening to the both of you is also inspiring, because you see and you can also perceive and learn from you different standpoints, and you've noticed things that maybe I didn't point out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Paolo. I'd like to highlight again the power of digital conversation that is currently available. You can find the link in the description below the video. I was one of the lucky ones to read it before it got published, and I must say I was just amazed by how just for everyone to know, every 2-3 pages I was messaging Paolo saying this is exactly how I felt about it. I was just amazed by the quality of the book and the thinking behind it. So thank you so much, Paolo, for joining us, and hopefully there will be another session sometime later this year.
Thanks to you, Julien, Max, and also looking forward to the next one.
Thanks, Paolo. Great to chat. Take care.
So, Max, how do you feel about this second episode?
I think we're starting to get our feet under us. I think the jitters were led to us being on our game, and Paolo brought a great story with a lovely bit of awfulness in it, which you need. So I thought it was great. How about you? How do you feel?
I got a new metaphor ready. I'm not sure I will use this one on stage. I'll have to think about it. But
that's one that will work in some audiences, not all.
But I'm thrilled. Great episode. Super happy with our first guest of the year. So can you maybe give us a short teaser about what's happening next month?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be similar. We've got my friend and predecessor, Art Scholer's going to come, and he's going to talk a little bit about, actually, interestingly, that's another case where somebody's coming into his home if he goes in the direction we were talking about. So we seem to have a theme of people coming home or coming to our homes. So we'll see how all that goes.
Perfect. Can't wait to be there. Thank you, Max. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And then I guess we'll see you guys not next week, but next month. Thank you,
That
everyone.
sounds great. Thanks, everybody.